Metal Gear Solid, the stealth action classic of the 1990s, a PlayStation icon with a legendary figure to boot with Solid Snake. What can I say that has not been said by others? It's going to be a hard challenge for sure, but one I hope to put my own spin on for you guys. This retrospective was a hard one to piece together. However, like all my videos, I hope to add personal touches and nostalgic elements to it all. After all, this series is special to many, especially its first entry, Metal Gear Solid 1, which is what we're covering today. And to me too, it's got a lot of personal weight around it. It just brings me back to being in awe of video games when I was younger. This game particularly not only changed gaming, but the gamers and the way people outside gaming saw the industry as well. It was a monolith of interactive entertainment for so many reasons. From its incredible characters, its bosses, the political themes, story arcs, environmental design, Easter egg and nuances, to its intense stealth gameplay, clever and intuitive mechanics, and even its silly aspects which we all loved, or the supernatural moments, which again was another thing that really elevated the game for me. It had everything you could ask from a genre-defining title of early gaming. Now we are going to retrace the steps of Snake himself, every bullet shot, every alert sounded, every maniacal speech from a crazed boss, every emotional codec call, and every historical exposition dump that left me scratching my head as a kid. The aim is to give an overview to old fans and new, inform them about it, and try to best explain why this game is so special and had such a gravitational impact felt even in games today.
That new world is yours to live in, not as a snake, but as a man.
Your favorite song. Nicola Bard. Immigrants wrongly executed. But their deaths served as a message to others. Do you too believe your sacrifice will change the world?
Zero and I were liquid and solidus. We fought to free ourselves from nations and systems and norms and ages. The only liberty we found was on the inside, trapped within those limits. But you have been given freedom. Freedom to be outside.
You mustn't allow yourself to be chained to fate, to be ruled by your genes. Humans can choose the type of life they want to live. The important thing is that you choose life.
Back in 1998, I was just 4 years old. Mini void, indeed. My brain could barely comprehend school. My focus was ice cream and toys. Video games were a new thing to pretty much everyone I knew, but gaming was already in my house, with the Master System and, more importantly, the PS1. Now, my dad did play puzzle-like games, some things like Tetris and early golf games. We even had Duck Hunt, who remembers that? I dabbled here and there, and my dad did for years, but it's all a very distant, foggy memory at this point, besides one or two. Mostly for me, it's all Metal Gear Solid, the biggest game of '98 for many reasons, and this one being personal to me. Now clearly I did not play it all the way through back in '98, I could barely ride a bike, but a few years later a friend invited me to his house where I experienced the intro to MGS1 for the first time with somewhat of a actual brain. It's stuck with me ever since. The music, the graphics, the cinematic nature, all on my favourite console at the time. Just the perfect introduction to how games can have these deep, compelling stories, amazing characters, high level 3D graphics and competent, believable voice acting. It changed everything for me, and for many others. I think Otacon explains the game best here.
It's like one of my Japanese animes.
I have vivid memories of a James Bond-like figure strangling ghost-like enemies in a warehouse, picking up little floating cardboard boxes, striding through puddles, before venturing out into a cold factory-like environment with a helicopter readying for takeoff. This was Solid Snake's approach to the dock of Shadow Moses Island, sneaking and fighting past the genome soldiers towards the game's introduction of Liquid Snake. It's wild how a brain of a child can see things and remember these things later on. As such a young kid, I could not comprehend the story of such a mature and historical game. Its conversations were quite deep, but the gameplay was intense, different. Sneaking was a new thing to me, and pretty much this was one of the very first big sneaking games. It immediately resonated with me. The game is just something special to me personally. I got a lot of crap at school growing up. I was the weird kid, bullied relentlessly, as I'm sure a lot of you guys were. I sunk into gaming quite badly as an escape. Probably not the healthiest thing to do, but hey, what are you gonna do? MGS taught me a lot about the world and people. It was an emotional time in my life through my teenage years as well, and those characters and stories really helped me. That got deep, but it is very true. MGS influenced who I am today, for better or worse, like many other games. Just like movies and music can influence anyone else too. As the years went by, this became my favourite franchise, spawning multiple entries, but it began with finally getting my own copy of MGS1 around 2001. I remember because MGS2 was either out or coming out and the PS2 was a big thing. But I was still a generation behind. I could understand most of the story finally and themes it had, but even as an adult in 2024, it's hard to wrap your mind around the gene and meme metaphors of MGS1 and MGS2 in totality and understand what Hideo Kojima, the game's director, was trying to put across as a true message. The creation of the original Metal Gear Solid seems a somewhat turbulent, messy, but beautiful process that all worked out in the end. Reflecting and researching into how one of my favourite games of all time was made was quite a therapeutic experience, so this video has helped me out. But in short, Hideo Kojima, the game's creator, had been planning a 3D version of the original Metal Gear since 1994. Whether this was going to be a remake, a reboot, or something we ended up with in the middle with Metal Gear Solid, he needed the technology regardless and the power to bring that vision to reality. Well, a few years later, work began in Japan, with Konami leading the game's development and creation under a subsidiary ran by the legend himself. Kojima states that MGS1 was a major turning point for him and the way his games were developed moving forward, and how they were written and cast. Ibisu, the subsidiary itself, was created in 1996 with the purpose of handling MGS1. He had to even turn off the electricity back then at night to save costs due to the financial constraints of the project. The 90s were a bit of a tough time for this genius. Unfortunately, not a lot more is known about the internal game development outside of some anecdotes, statements, documents and odd little articles, or even some promo and early shots of the release material. Which, it's fun to look up yourself but would be here all day. Most of what we know about the making of actually comes from the voice actors, which we're going to get round to. Kojima, as we know, is a huge cinephile, so he's into his movies, he adores Hollywood. It's all inherently reflected within every game in the Metal Gear franchise, and now Death Stranding 1 and 2 coming soon. We also have Overdose coming, which we're not sure what that is yet. Especially because it was his first 3D outing with MGS1. Those really early concepts of like Escape from New York were there. But a lot of the inspirations range from Ghost in a Shell, James Bond, Escape from New York as we mentioned, 2001 A Space Odyssey, Akira and Doctor Strangelove. He is a true creative genius, don't get me wrong, and I fully respect him. But he did not do it alone. MGS shares the DNA of the games industry at the time, its developers and the times itself. All of these things created what Metal Gear was. Not just one man, not a group of people, everyone involved. Nevertheless, we luckily know much more to share about the game's making, from the casting, the voice actors, and the recording work itself, thanks to the legendary Chris Zimmerman, a woman who brought together legends such as David Hayter, David Mae West, Christopher Randolph, Paul Eading, Jennifer Hale, and many more talented people to work on MGS1 for this now star-studded cast of the PS1 classic. For me personally, when it comes down to games, the voices make the game. If it's believable and it's not cringy or poorly acted, I immerse myself completely. So, without those amazing people breathing life into these characters, the game would lose a large amount of magic for me, and I'm sure a lot of other people feel the same. These people are integral parts, as Zimmerman puts it, and she is a legend who brought others into the fold. Every person involved with the MGS1 project made it what it is today. Like I said, not just Kojima, not just Konami, everyone. But where did this all begin? Well, it seems like it's in the Hollywood Hills actually, in the 90s, in a somewhat old rundown place previously owned by the romantic classic actor Valentino. Zimmerman pulled together her friends and actors into the make, do and mend voice acting booths and converted the space to bring Snake, Meryl, Otacon and more all to come to life. The actors went on to record and say it was a very different experience. From recording scenes in chronological order to recording alongside their fellow actors, even shooting retakes due to lack of soundproofing the glass picking up outside traffic. Patience was needed here, and having an audience from Konami themselves watching over their every move, tech guys dotted around the studio, it seemed to add extra pressure. As we know, pressure makes diamonds, diamond dogs. MGS became that diamond. David Hayter was the hero and star of the show, one if not the most memorable part of the series for many, and for me personally. The voice of Solid Snake and the later Big Boss himself. Zimmerman mentioned he even wore a bandana to his interview and auditioned for everything when he was going for Snake, which may have swayed Konami's decision for sure. Even Jennifer Hale, his friend, supported him and said the big bucks were coming in for him. Jennifer herself played Dr. Naomi Hunter, Snake's on-mission doctor of sorts with mysterious surrounding her past, and passive-aggressive nature towards him for a good amount of the game. She was quite the hidden nemesis of Snake almost, friends becoming foes, who would return in the later games. Cam Clarke played Liquid Snake, the main antagonist of brother of Solid Snake. He stood out to Zimmerman for his great vocal range, perfectly suiting the almost cliché British villain, moustache twirling and all. But he added so much to the bitter, twisted by evil and almost misunderstood son of the boss. Our incredible femme fatale rookie soldier was played by Debbie Mae West. Yes, Meryl. She was responsible for my personal taste in redheads and tomboys growing up. She was a deep character. You did learn to care for her as you played, and is one of the true canon ending choices. She has so much to add to this game as well. It's a great performance and an amazing character. Christopher Randolph originally went for the audition of Snake, but he got Otacon in the end, due to his lightness and personality. The best friend and techie sidekick to our legendary Snake for all those years. He slipped into the skin of the intelligent, awkward scientist very well in Zimmerman's words. And I could not agree more. He's always a character I've been fascinated with and one of the best for his arcs across the games. They showcased an incredible bond as the games went on and like a brotherly love. I know other people have taken it a bit further in fan fiction, but we won't go there today. Paul Eiding plays the Colonel, a pure character actor, perfect for the role of an old army mentor of Snake, adding brash but emotional weight to the orders given and more personal moments later with Merrill. A solid choice for a mentor-like figure, and someone that I'd like to see return as the games go on, especially in MGS2 when you realise the twist. There were so many other actors involved that all did a fantastic job that would be here all day, but we need to mention a few specific people. The amazing Patrick Zimmerman, who played the fiendish and theatrical Revolver Ocelot for so many years, one of the series' primary antagonists and one of the most important, if not most important characters, who really gets a lot of fleshed out backstory in 3 and 4. Greg Eagles behind the voice of Grey Fox and the DARPA Chief too. Kim May as Mei Ling. Peter Lurie, who played Vulcan Raven, another boss and member of Foxhound, worked with his father on this project actually, Alan Lurie playing Kenneth Baker, the Armstech president. Sadly, he did pass away a few years ago. It seemed a very intersecting project all round for the actors involved who were incredibly interested in the work at the time, even if it was just another job. During researching for this video, I did find quite a lot of anecdotes from the whole process of recording, and Chris Zimmerman did go on record to say that the script was so insanely huge compared to games at that time. It had genuine character arcs and interaction, highly detailed, a lot of written word to learn, and so much in terms of genetics and military. She was utterly shocked and read the whole thing that night. Another common joke during the recording was how actors pronounced Otacon, from octagon to otacon to otacon. There was a lot of laughter apparently in the booths, which is nice to think back on. They all bonded over these silly breakdowns in languages. Shalashaska, apparently another one that Patrick could never get right for himself until one specific recording. Something the cast go on record to remember fondly as well. Another quality mention here that I did find quite funny was that the game over screen that a lot of us fans all know and love for the Snake was actually recorded, and they didn't know why they were recording these lines. They did not realise it was for the game over screen, which I thought was really funny looking back at it, and obviously once they realised it would make sense, but I think that anecdote's just really funny and it's a good highlight to bring to attention if fans didn't know. But overall, there was some turbulence for the actors involved during the production though. A potential conflict did arise when it came to the Screen Actors Guild and voicing for video games, probably because voice acting at the time for games was a relatively new concept. We were moving from text to audio, and it wasn't accounted for in the rules or anything they'd signed up for, like tax declarations, financials and other complexities that we laymen won't know unless you're a voice actor. So for members to take on the job, they use fake names to avoid any problems. This is why some of the names in the opening credits and closing credits are actually completely false, compared with David Hayter, who kept his real name, and other people that changed it, like James Flinders, which is actually Cam Clark as Liquid Snake. It's quite interesting, and I did hear some hearsay, shall we say. That's a lot of hearsay, shall we say. But it was also the word the game would not do well. But this is conflicting information and something we can't rely on. I think the Screen Actors Guild information is probably more reliable here. Overall, Konami, Kojima and everyone else involved with the making of this product just thought it was going to be another game that would be received either well or badly. But it blew up and went over expectations of Konami. Kojima and the cast behind it all, outstanding by performances and the end goal. When that project wrapped up and it got into the hands of the audiences, The gamers and critics alike called it a generational defining game, a shift for the industry and a true masterpiece. Before this, 005 was the only real big sneaking game, but now MGS have kind of capitalised on that, a lot like Resident Evil did with the survival horror compared to Alone in the Dark. But the combination of Kojima's mind, Konami's development and hard work, and the incredible talent of actors on show did make this a mark in video game history. The narrative of Metal Gear Solid is by far its greatest asset or pillar, so we couldn't have a video not share the whole journey that Snake goes on. Everything begins with Solid Snake here, the legendary hero who stopped 2 Metal Gears and his own father, Big Boss. But where's he been? Well, he's held up in Alaska, a dog musher, a recluse. You could say he was looking for meaning, or simply introverted, verging on being a drunk. This man had been fighting to get away from it all and was dragged back into it once again. Before long, Colonel Campbell recruits him for an important mission involving his former unit, Foxhound, who have gone rogue under their new leader, Liquid Snake. An insurrection mounts, holding up on Shadow Moses Island, and they commandeer a brand new type of weapon, a new Metal Gear. Dr. Naomi Hunter is also present during these briefings and medical exams, checking Snake over and injecting nanomachines into his body for many military benefits and communication, regulating heart, regulating temperature, everything like that. An old soldier coming back to the battlefield for one last fight does need his top-ups, but we'll see how that turns out later. The year itself is 2005, and his former unit Foxhound takes control of that island in the Alaska's Fox Archipelago, codenamed Shadow Moses, as we've discussed. And this does house a nuclear weapons disposal facility, and a peculiar choice for the terrorists, as there's no nukes according to that information that Snake got. But we do learn that Foxhound threatens to use the nuclear-capable mech Metal Gear Rex, being secretly tested at the facility under a black project. And their plan is simple. They'll nuke the US unless they get the remains of Big Boss and a ransom of $1 billion within 24 hours. Time is ticking, and it adds a genuine threat to the story. This is where Snake's big mission begins. So our 2 objectives that Roy Campbell sends us on is a mission to locate 2 hostages, the DARPA chief and the Arms Tech president. These are our main objectives when we begin the game, and these individuals will confirm if Liquid can launch the nukes or not. First up, we have to infiltrate the facility, passing or killing genome soldiers before entering a lift to the B1 area. We do find the DARPA chief, who confirms the existence of Metal Gear Rex, the PAL system, and then weirdly presents a bizarre behaviour before dying out of the blue for an unknown reason. We're as perplexed as you at this stage. Meryl, the Colonel's niece, does emerge and releases us from the cell shortly after, confronting Snake as a potential murderer of the chief, before a group of G-Name soldiers storm the room and we fight them off. Meryl herself runs away. Bizarrely, she shoots back, preventing chase before Mantis appears. I've always taken this as Mantis controlling her, especially because he calls her a good girl. This does disturb Snake to the core, and it does freak out the player. Next, as we progress, we get to the B2 level. After destroying some walls with some C4, handily found in the same building, Snake is confronted by Ocelot, another member of Foxhound, who then challenges him to a gunfight, toting a single-action army revolver of some kind, and there's lots of memes been made of this, you've probably already seen it. Snake finds the Armtech president during their conversation, and after you finally beat Ocelot, the Western fan himself has his hand chopped off by a cyborg ninja. Things just begin to get wilder and wilder from here, and as a kid, this was just like, what the hell is going on? The genome modified ninja is actually Grey Fox, something you naturally learn later, who was believed to die following the fight with Solid Snake in Metal Gear 2, one of the old MSX games. After explaining the ninja is Foxhound's dirty little secret, Baker mentions we also need to speak to Hal Emmerich, the lead designer of the Metal Gear Rex project. The Arms Tech president himself then suffers a cardiac arrest like we've already seen. After revealing our next objective, there is a trend appearing here. Much like the DARPA chief died, what is going on? We finally get back in touch with Meryl after leaving the basement area, who gives us more context to the mission, how the insurrection began, her own story and Hal's location. This is done in a really cool way by looking at the back of the actual CD game case. So another fourth wall break there. We reach her on the codec and that's how this whole conversation begins. After a bit of flirting, banter and some serious talk, we headed out to meet Hal Emmerich. After getting through a nice little laser grid, we are ambushed by a tank here sadly. Only it's not a true surprise, as a mysterious character calls our codec to warn us, referring to himself as Deep Throat. Yeah, enough jokes about that. The battle proceeds against Vulcan Raven, another member of Foxhound, with more of the supernatural character in tow for this guy, I guess. He's a bit of a weird, shamanistic religious sort. He predicts quite a lot of future revelations for Snake's heritage as well, and actions. Either way, taking out the tank with the grenades was a wild thing to do. Snake is a badass, and when you first do this, it's a bit of a challenge to get your aiming right, but you'll get it, trust me. We do venture into a hangar of an old nuclear waste facility here for the next step. We are warned we can't use our weapons in this area, something the game actually simply blocks, forcing you to stealth another elevator to the next objective. This is where we head down to another area, the B2 scientific-like facility. After some fancy schmancy kind of Nikita Rocket puzzle environment tricks, I don't really want to fully spoil that for you because it can be a bit of a job to do it the first time, we actually disable the electric floor and can reach Otacon. Upon saving Otacon, we actually come across Grey Fox himself in another intense and mechanically unique boss fight. There's a lot of hand-to-hand combat here, finding him when he's invisible, and a lot of weird sound effects playing. It always creeped me out. After this, we do learn the truth about Metal Gear Rex and who's designed it and how Hal had a first-hand account in its design, but unfortunately didn't know it was nuclear. He starts to dub himself Otacon thanks to his love of anime, after he wet himself obviously, so we'll cut him some slack here. The game really ramps up from here. As Otacon limps away with the stealth camo, we find Meryl, flirt again and have some deep conversations in the toilet before we are confronted with another member of Foxhound, Psycho Mantis. One if not the most memorable boss fight of the game, and one of those most special moments in gaming and the series as a whole. Lots of fourth wall breaking occurs here before we learn a trick to defeat Mantis. Like all bosses, we learn their history upon their death. This one was a brutally sad and pathetic tale, commented on by Meryl and Snake themselves. I always thought Mantis was a victim in the whole thing, even though he'd become maniacal and psychotic. He was disgusted at humanity, essentially. As a brief respite from the battles at play, Snake and Meryl come across some wolves as they exit where we just battled Mantis, in a little cave ice glacier segment. This moment is quite sweet and calm before the storm. I remember it quite fondly to this day, using the thermal goggles, seeing the wolves run around. The little puppy loved Meryl. It was just a nice little segment just to ease the tension before another issue happens. Sadly, Meryl ends up turned into a human colander by Sniper Wolf, the brutal but sexy sniper of Foxhound. It's up to Snake to rescue her, and I always hated this section due to having to backtrack the entire way back to the warehouse, and this is where we battled Ocelot. This was ages ago. It always felt like adding padding or extra time to the game. Nevertheless, we get the sniper, Meryl ends up being missing and not where she was shot. We beat the wolf and then bang, we end up kidnapped and tortured. This is where the game pivots into two paths: survive the torture and save Meryl, or submit to the torture and you save Otacon. It has a real emotional weight presented as a grueling challenge. You literally have to suffer the pain at your fingertips, bashing the resist button to save Meryl. It's a perfect fourth wall break and metaphor for what's happening. Again, the next sections speed up the pace. Once you escape, the ante of Metal Gear Solid 1 really speeds up. We face Liquid in the comms tower against the Hind D Chopper and Sniper Wolf in another full boss battle. Sniper versus Sniper. A lovely calm environment in comparison to the action-filled tower section we just went through. Wolf's howling between the pelting bullets after defeating her and leaving Otacons Crush dead on the floor with a lovely little hanky. We shared some passing remarks on life, battle and the mission before heading to the underground bunker where Rex is stored. And this is where you insert disc 2, because this game comes on 2 discs. Solid Snake delves deeper into the Shadow Moses complex at this moment, where he encounters Vulcan Raven for the last time, battling him in a cold storage room. Faced with a minigun, we do employ the Nikita to catch our shaman out. We share more thoughts on battle, and Raven predicts more of Snake's future. It's even revealed around this time in the game that Master Miller, our codec contact that we've been speaking to the whole game, was an imposter. It was Liquid all along. Getting towards the edge of the game, we actually encounter Metal Gear Rex in person for the first time, right in its hangar. After some more codec calls, exposition and exploration, also being sidetracked by a rat nicking our card. Who knows why this was in the game, it's very annoying. Our next task is to deactivate Metal Gear and stop Liquid's insurrection once and for all. Remember those PAL key cards we got? We only had one? Well, we only needed one. Here is another amazing mechanic of MGS that they implemented. We ventured through 2 rooms on the way in. One industrial forge-like room filled with lava, and the other was a cold storage where we battled Raven. Both rooms alter the material of the PAL card, a shape memory alloy, meaning 2 trips and 3 visits to the PAL input control room will get all 3 cards and deactivate Metal Gear. A very clever mechanic that caught me off guard as a kid, but after some thought, it's done. Or is it? This is when the curtain is pulled back and Liquid comes onto centre stage like a pantomime villain. It turns out they never activated Metal Gear in the first place. The real DARPA chief died, the fake DARPA chief was Decoy Octopus, and they had no way to activate it, so they relied on Snake, and he activated it by mistake, thinking they'd already done it. Cue Liquid's maniacal plan, the reveal and the laughter. This is the ending of MGS1, so strap in. It's time to face Liquid and Metal Gear Rex. It seems impossible at first when you see this giant mech versus this little guy. Forcing open its cockpit to attack Liquid directly is your only tactic here. We use our trusty Stinger missile and some codec assistance to understand this. Just as things start to take a turn though, our familiar ninja friend enters the fray, explaining he was Naomi's brother all along and he'd actually murdered her family back in the day. And this is why she betrayed Snake. She injected him with Fox dye, something that was spreading to the DARPA chief, to the Armtech president, even to Fox himself. A big reveal. It's all quite emotional when you think about it, and Grey Fox is one of the most badass characters with incredible quotes and a plot twist in this game. I just absolutely adore the character, and it won't quite be the last you see of him. Sadly, he does give his life saving us, dying a true hero and a friend to Snake. As Rex is destroyed, we confront Liquid person to person, and he explains the truth behind everything, the government lying, Fox die, the betrayal, how Liquid is your brother, Big Boss is your father, and the soldiers we've been killing this whole time, the Genome Army, are actually our brothers too, containing the same DNA from Big Boss. The US want to cover all this up. They called it L'Enfant Terrible. It was a project in the 70s where they attempted to clone Big Boss and get basically 2 good soldiers out of it. A sense of betrayal does wash over you in this state, and a mistrust immediately hits you like a ton of bricks. It's quite insane how well put together this plot is, and ahead of its time. Each character is totally fleshed out and could have their own game, movie, or anime like Origins. Everything's exaggerated just to the right point. Now, remember earlier, depending on your torture outcome, either we save Meryl in the final fist fight against Liquid on top of Rex, or she's already dead, and you get your brother Otacon. Now, back in the 90s, this was a real choice, and it genuinely upset me because I could never survive the torture, so I always ended up with Otacon. So when I finally could do it and get Meryl, it was the first time I'd seen that ending. Now, with MGS 2, 3 and 4, we know they both survive actually now, and that the canon ending is actually Meryl, because Otacon escapes on his own. Either way, you face Liquid, we best him, he falls from Metal Gear Rex, we assume he's dead, and the government sends an airstrike to clean up the whole mess they might have made with this situation. As we don our sneaking suit, you get the girl or you get the bro. One last chase is in an army jeep to the surface through some tunnels. Now we go through the Rex bunker and we're driven by Otacon or Meryl here. We face soldiers with our mounted gun on the back of it, and we're on our way to freedom and glory. The end is within sight, but there is one final twist. Liquid returns. He's not dead, he's a pantomime villain. He gives chase, hailing Snake with bullets. It's the final battle in the game, and this can be quite tough and tricky at times, getting the right angle to actually hit Liquid and survive the whole way through the tunnels. However, it ends with a spectacular crash, before Liquid finally succumbs to Fox Die at Snake's hands. Very conveniently, I might add. Just like a blockbuster Hollywood flick of the 90s. The game closes with Snake and or Meryl Otacon riding off into the sunset on a jet ski, talking about their future lives, revealing, Snake's actual name being David, which is a coincidence with the voice actor, but actually not based on the voice actor's name. It is all actually very quite moving and sweet and melancholic. I always remember the ending being quite sad, but it was a good ending all round. But we have one last post-credit twist as well, as Revolver Ocelot was revealed to be a double agent working for the president all along. Now, me retelling this does not do it justice in any sense, no one could, so I definitely recommend playing the game or watching the movie of the game with all the cutscenes. There is so much context in the codec calls and so much nuance in actually playing the game, but this is my overall cliff notes of Metal Gear Solid 1. To help you understand this video a bit better.
Not yet, Snake! It's not over yet!
Metal Gear Solid for the PS1 was an astounding achievement, technically speaking. Now let's get into that nitty gritty, because the blending of stealth, action and narrative in such a way was groundbreaking for the time. Never really being put together in such a cohesive way until its release. The game's mechanics encourage careful planning, strategic thinking, and adaptability to a variety of situations, creating a richly immersive experience. You cannot run and gun if you wish to survive. This is about carefully planning how to deal with each area and each encounter. Moment by moment, its emphasis on avoiding detection and being as stealthy as possible was the core addiction to the gameplay loop. Using a variety of tools and techniques to outsmart enemies and engaging unique boss battles as well set a new standard for the stealth genre. MGS was one of the forefathers how contemporary stealth games are outlined today. So let's go over some of these mechanics and its gameplay in more depth. First up, let's take a look at stealth. Avoiding detection is the biggest aspect of MGS1. Players control Solid Snake and they must navigate through the environments while avoiding detection by the G-Name soldiers, or cameras, or anything, as this can risk death on the mission or complete failure. The game uses almost slanted top-down perspectives for the most part, with occasional first-person changes if the player inputs it or the cutscene demands it. Luckily, there is a radar in place that's always present at the top right of the corner, displaying enemy fields of vision and patrol routes to assist the player in navigating these obstacles. It also has an in-lore reason that it's there. Alert phases will happen on your first run. They are bound to happen, so it's important to understand them. When Snake is spotted, the game enters an alert phase, where guards pursue and attack. This lasts an allotted time as long as the player is unseen. While being chased, the time will not reduce because you're in their sight. When you're out of their sight, you enter an evasion status until an all clear can occur. Players can evade pursuit by hiding and waiting for the alert phase to end, or running from the area, or you simply die. It's pretty simplistic, but this did get expanded on later entries. As you can expect, because of all this, and sneaking, sound and audio is incredibly important in the game. Guards react to sound, so you must be mindful of footsteps, gunfire, and other noises you can create. Walking on noisy surfaces like metal grates can attract attention you don't need. Always be aware. And go prone to avoid any unnecessary noises too, or you may risk another alert and another failure, and then all you'll hear is Snake all over again. Hiding is an integral part of this stealth classic. Snake can hide under objects, between areas, use items like the cardboard box, or use the stealth camouflage to avoid detection, but only when it's unlocked. Now when it comes to the combat itself, there is a few pillars at its core. Hand-to-hand combat, one of the most subtle and simple combat moves you can do in the game. Snake can perform a variety of moves, including punching, kicking and choking enemies. While early days for the CQC aspect in the franchise lore, it's essentially the same thing. Simple PS1 button presses activate a combo to knock enemies out. We also have the ability to throw enemies over our shoulder, either knocking them out or escaping. This is something as the franchise progressed got more and more fleshed out, especially in MGS 3, 4 and 5. The game features a variety of weapons and gadgets at Snake's disposal too. You'll feel like a real James Bond, each with unique functions, bear in mind, and mechanics to them. These include the basic SOCOM pistol, which is found pretty early on in the game but can be missed easily as well. It also changes positions on harder difficulties, so bear that in mind. The FAMAS automatic rifle is also a staple of the series, with its origins in MGS1. Good for clearing out a few baddies and focusing on bosses though. The Nikita missile launcher is by far one of the most fun weapons to use, remote rockets allowing many tactics and helping you with some environmental puzzles and boss fights, or just messing around with enemies. The Stinger rocket launcher is also another big ordnance style gun, used for mostly boss fights, but if you want to blast a genome soldier away, feel free. There's even a sniper rifle, the PSG-1, as a matter of fact. Something that is very situational, but powerful regardless, requiring a secondary item by diazepam to be truly effective to stop Snake shaking in the cold. There is also a variety of items within the game that can help you with different obstacles, situations and battles. The most known item is Snake's cardboard box, a classic 90s to noughties meme, a silly bit in a serious game, which I still find hilarious to this day. But hey, it's useful. Everything else ranging from scopes, thermal goggles, a mine detector, suppressors for the weapons, all add such depth of early choice to a classic this hadn't really been seen before or done. Even the ID card access, rations for your health and the power system come into such effective use throughout the game. All these items also are displayed in two drop-down menus, showcase left and right with the left and right triggers. I always found the little sound effect flicking between these so, like, I don't know, it itches my brain. It just makes me feel good. It's weird. Although one of the most useful items in the game, and in most of the games, is completely non-lethal, and it is abundant: chaff grenades. These handy little guys will block electrical signals of cameras, turrets, and even radars. Good when you're in a pinch. You could even smoke cigarettes in the game, but they would drain your health. This was a fine line Konami put in the sand, wanting them in the game, but also showcasing that smoking was bad. And it had small benefits of seeing lasers and making Snake seem cooler. But yeah, it's also weird how he got them onto the base. Let's not talk about that. All this core gameplay loop prepares you for the array of boss battles and what the game throws at you. One of the best and most unique aspects of the MGS series was also its boss battles. They got totally reborn, I guess, for MGS1. I can guarantee you one of these bosses will be sticking in your memory since first playing the game over 25 years ago. These violent encounters are seriously unique. They're varied, they require different strategies for each. Each of these bosses has unique abilities too, mechanics or patterns, such as Psycho Mantis's mind control, his need for breaking the fourth wall and changing the controller ports, Grey Fox with his hand-to-hand combat, invisible hide-and-seek moments, Vulcan's 2 fights of grenades, crawling and covering and remote control missiles, and that whole like snowy, icy segment in the warehouse was really cool with his fight. The Hind D Tower Stinger fight, or Sniper Wolf's long-range combat. I mean, there's variety here, you never get bored of the gameplay. Many boss fights also involve using the environment to gain an advantage, such as using cover, traps for bosses such as mines or special items. Each fallen member of Foxhound offers their backstory, motive and final thoughts to Snake, a touching moment that even our protagonist cares for in the last moments as well. Traps and obstacles are also commonplace in MGS1. They will catch you out on your first playthrough, trust me. The game includes various hazards to overcome, such as the mines and the surveillance cameras and the laser grids and the trap floors, which players must navigate carefully around or risk another game over with Campbell screaming at you again. Weather and darkness also come into play in many areas as well, affected by the environmental conditions like snow, wind, the visibility, footprints when the guards see you, adding another layer of strategy to the player to contend with as well. Again, all these may sound simple or commonplace for 2024, but this was 1998. A lot of these concepts had not been thought of before, and it was on the PS1. It was just revolutionary, and the immersion and nuanced gameplay really struck a chord with a lot of people. All these gameplay moments coexist alongside your typical health bar, which expands with every boss victory as mentioned. Rations will fill this bar back up, even when they're just auto-equipped, but make sure you don't run out. It's probably one of the game's most simple systems, however, alongside the radar mapping system which allows players to plan routes, avoiding the guards and scoping out areas, plus its in-depth codec communication system, it really makes you feel like you're a solid Snake. Sorry, I couldn't resist that IGN meme there. But yeah, you will feel immersed, you'll feel like a special agent, you'll feel like James Bond. It's cool. Calling for support, asking for hints, finding out what your next objective is, then approaching it in any way you see fit within the game's limits. Just remember, if you alert the genome soldiers, bye-bye radar, because until you escape them, it will be jammed. Another strong aspect of any MGS game is its replay value. The game offers multiple difficulty settings, different endings, Easter eggs, VR mission challenges, and these can change how the enemies are alerted, or their health and the availability of certain items. They may move place, especially on hard and extreme. These VR missions double up as almost training scenarios before taking on the main game. And there's over 300 of these on the Japanese integral version of the game, something that never made its way to the UK sadly. But we do get a few. There is just so much to MGS1 at its core, and the replays just make it a classic. Even as a 25-year-old PS1 game with now dated gameplay and visuals, it still does a lot for the player in terms of sheer enjoyment, and it holds up today, mostly. A true monument that shaped gaming for the future, and it was built and delivered by Kojima, who was a genius, and Konami with a great list of developers at its core. But let's always never forget those voice actors like I mentioned that brought it all to life. But what is a game without a bit of silliness to the seriousness? The fun and sneaky little Easter eggs that we find all over the place. Yes, MGS as a series is awash with these, and I would never want to spoil them all for you. But I will mention a few that I find fun in MGS1. When escorting Meryl through the caves, wolves approach you. Now, if you hit Meryl here, I know domestic violence, but still, if you hit Meryl here, they will attack you. Now, if you're quick enough, you'll actually equip the cardboard box. If you do this, I don't know how someone found this out, the little puppy will actually come and pee against the box of Snake. It's gross, but cute. And while we're speaking of Meryl, such like Snake, if you were taken by her polygon beauty, staring at her in first person view for a few minutes, or just being a 12-year-old creep, you will actually make the character blush and comment on your gaze. Well, turning almost totally pink is more accurate because you're kind of being pervy here, and Kojima had a lot of pervy moments in these games that really should be addressed. And another great little Easter egg, only you will find this if you suck at the game like me. So obviously, I got there naturally. When fighting Ocelot, if you die a few times, instead of him saying you're pretty good when you beat him first time, he will be disappointed and remark at Snake lacking skills compared to Big Boss, which is just hilarious, and it's like a little subtlety you'd only know if you replayed the game and just failed. There is a ton of these all over the game series, but MGS1 has quite a few niche ones, and they're fun little Easter eggs. Try calling members of support team via codec as well at specific moments, or bugging them, or annoying them in certain ways. There's your hints, and you'll find even more. At this point and at the closing towards my video, we have discussed both the making of MGS1, its deep narrative, and the gameplay that will keep you hooked. But none of it would mean much without core aspects surrounding it. Music, art, and themes. 3 intensely layered sections throughout Metal Gear as a series, but integral to its first 3D outing on the PS1. Yoji Shinkawa, the artist responsible for those legendary game covers and character art pieces, is synonymous with MGS now. You see those pieces of theirs and you instantly think of the series. It's always helped to elevate the content of the game to another level. And as a layman who knows nothing really about graphic design, I've always adored these realistic, rough sketches. Shinkawa's art has really stood the test of time when it comes to video games, and he has been credited to other video games, other pieces of work. Definitely check him out. He is one of the big creatives behind the game, and it wouldn't be the same without him. As for its intensely amazing music, everything about the original soundtrack is incredibly unique and memorable. From the ambient tunes and the environmental set-piece music, to its full scores such as The Best Is Yet to Come. Some of this has been playing throughout the video, albeit Konami's probably going to clamp down on this video and maybe mute some of it, so who knows when we finish this up. I can't play a lot of it for you because of YouTube, but honestly go and look up the soundtrack. Recently, Final Fantasy Rebirth and Alan Wake 2 come to mind as these incredible soundtracks that accompany and just, really elevate these projects. But MGS1 was the first PS1 game to really properly do this, and as a PS1 early video game title, using this audio to make it feel cinematic and like you're part of a film. The musical numbers broaden the emotional weight and the immersion of the project completely. so you'd be doing yourself a disservice if you did not listen to these in your own time. Boot them up on Spotify or YouTube Music. Now, Kojima and Konami both made it very clear with Metal Gear Solid that the theme is very much based on an anti-nuclear stance. As much as the game is based around war, soldiers and weapons, it takes a proud stance of raising awareness to nuclear energy, its waste, the dangers and impact on society, even government interaction and involvement with it. In the 1990s, this was a bold move and a clever way to distribute the viewpoint itself to young gamers. A theme that continued in the following entries, culminating with its nuclear deterrence theme in MGS5. Remember, people are not tools of the government, a sentiment Grey Fox died by. Other messages included in the game were existential in nature, life, destiny, genetics, and manipulation of DNA. Can you fight your own DNA? Can you fight your own destiny? Its nature and what you live for. The importance of these messages and teachings are how you choose to pass on your knowledge. It was all very deep and philosophical, and there's vast interpretations on this game and that's been overanalyzed. You can find them all here. And we've not even got to mention the cultural impact on the gaming landscape. Kojima's dream of a fully 3D in-engine rendering of cutscenes pushed the boundaries of what video games could achieve. Its addition of blatant political messages, replay value, and its ability to expand on the lore through additional access material like the mission briefings really took it to a new league. It set a standard for future entries in its own series and the competition for other developers. Influences of Metal Gear can be felt throughout video games. The likes of Splinter Cell, Hitman, Deus Ex, The Last of Us, even Helldivers 2, which was just this year, all have inspirations of this game in either gameplay, mechanics, controls, aesthetics, or development. The story elements and themes are also present, and they've passed down the generations. Acting, cinematics, the way these games were built, you owe a lot to Kojima, Chris Zimmerman, Konami, all these people that actually structured the game this way. David Hayter and Shinkawa are also legends of the industry because of what Metal Gear Solid brought to the table. Even if you haven't played MGS, you have played the games that were influenced by it. Recently, even Epic Games collaborated with Konami to bring Solid Snake to Fortnite. Whatever your opinions on that game, seeing Snake in pop culture aimed at kids is great. It's another generation. It was historically a game that changed everything from the ground up, and the passion has been felt for the franchise ever since in so many ways. I mean, even the cast go to Comic Cons, they meet fans, they're still voice actors to this day. It's just amazing to see. Now obviously it didn't just start and stop with MGS1, we had further entries such as Sons of Liberty, Snake Eater, Guns of the Patriots, and more. There were spin-offs, we've even got a remake coming. Now, from merchandise to cosplays to conventions and podcasts, it's all dedicated to our favourite sneaking game series. There was even a remake of MGS1 for the GameCube known as the Twin Snakes, which gave added technology and allowed Kojima to push the boundaries further. Now, this is obviously controversial. I personally don't like the Twin Snakes, it's too actiony in Hollywood, but for others they love it. It's definitely a visual improvement. Now we're in 2024 and on the verge of MGS Delta, the Snake Eater remake, which was its third entry. Metal Gear Solid is a series that it just needs to be played, absorbed, watched, reflected on. And after this whole video, I hope you can agree. Put it this way, a world without such an impactful piece of video game art is not worth thinking about, but I imagined it would be something like this.
Snake! Snake!
So here we are at the end of the video, and I just want to say a real heartfelt thanks to anyone who has sat through me rambling about MGS for the last hour. I truly do appreciate it. This is something I've been working on for months, and between delays and stuff going on at IRL and other reasons, it just took a bit of time. So, like I said, thank you for waiting. It's finally here and it's finally done. Now, as you can tell, I'm a massive fan of Metal Gear Solid, and we have covered it previously with the remake discussion, but moving forward, I do want this to be a series. Now, that depends totally on you guys and how you receive this. If you liked this video, please drop a like. Do a comment, share it with your friends, let me know, subscribe. You know, that is all the feedback I really need. It's all free, guys. Nothing on this video is monetized. And if you're a Metal Gear Solid fan, let me know you reached the end of the video by telling me your favourite personal quote and character. Now, I didn't want to leave the video just like this, so I do have something in mind to share with you guys from a very, very talented individual that you'll see quoted in the description and in the next section. And remember, guys, it's not over yet.
Oh, shit.